My Lexus is better than whatever you got! I have the only engine approved by the FAA for aviation use. I don't even need to tune this 1UZ. I just need to get a couple new headers in there. It's fine. It's fine. The twins don't need a birthday party this year. They aren't gonna starve. You see, I wanted a sports car, but when I owned a
insert sports car worthy of ridicule,
people didn't take me seriously. I'll have you know I'm a real adult with a real adult job at the responsibility factory. But the Lexus SC400 means I like to have a good time. I've got nothing to prove. So what? The power steering pump is leaking onto the radiator, the alternator, whatever. Who cares? So what? I've closed more accounts in the last 3 months than Red Lobster has closed locations. Don't you cut me off. Don't you cut me off. I'm not.
Hey, it's Brian. The giveaway for this Nismo Stillen, this 370Z Nismo 400 horsepower supercharged water-to-air intercooled Z car ends this Wednesday. So click on the link in the description or go to go.getunderwin.com. Buy a mug, digital download, and you're automatically entered to win this car from the Fast and the Furious era. Fast and the Furious era? Well, maybe I'm rambling a little bit. Anyway, it turned the corner on me. I'm not a big fan of Z cars, but this one, hey, I recognize that they're honestly fun. And if they weren't fun, they wouldn't make them. So it ends this Wednesday. Click on the link in the description. Go.getunderwin.com/regular cars. Buy a mug, digital download, and you're automatically entered to win. Thank you so much for supporting regular car reviews. And back to Nick and the SC400.
They're gonna bury me in this car, and when they do, I hope the mortician poses my face so I'm laughing at all the Supra fanboys who mortgaged their financial future on rage bait for BMW owners. Because this does everything the Supra does for less money. Fake Supra? You want to run that by me? Fake Supra. Oh my god, this man wants to get slapped. Hey guys, this guy wants to get popped in the mouth right now for saying that fake Supra. Let me tell you something, buddy. Fake Supra, more like a not fake Supra. Stop tripping me up. I'll have you know that me and my long-distance girlfriend have a thriving relationship. And when we cyber, the caps lock stays on. Lexus SC400. Packed with all the go-getter attitude of someone who brags about all the street cred they have. In Cyberpunk 2077. Lexus SC400. I just put on new aftermarket rims and mounted a subwoofer in back so I can blast the kind of flavorless hype that a CEO walks out to at a corporate keynote event. All I do is change my rims no matter what. So this is one of the more interesting cars I've reviewed for Race to the Bottom, because I'm not entirely sure what Lexus was trying to do here. On the surface, it seems like they wanted to compete with the CL Class Mercedes, the BMW 8 Series, the Jaguar XJS, even the Lincoln Mark 8. So they delivered a car that was known as the Toyota Soarer in Japan and the Lexus SC400 here in the United States. It was a project that cost close to $500 million to develop and sold for $45,970 in 1994, which is the equivalent of about $95,873 today. This was luxury with a capital L. For crying out loud, heated seats in 1994. These door hinges? These Mercedes-Benz door hinges, but they're like actually kind of better though. You know those hinges that are like double hinges? It's an exceedingly well-built car. And yet, for the 9 years of its first generation, it only got a manual transmission roughly halfway through. And the less said about the second generation, the better. It was a car which Jeremy Clarkson famously derided as one of the worst of its time. Even going so far as to say that a major brand like Toyota and Lexus, that they should know better, that they should have known better. And so I come back to the question of why a car as nominally good as the first generation Lexus SC400 doesn't have the same cultural significance as its contemporaries. Sure, you hear about how good they are among enthusiasts, but considering the decline of coupe sales in the late 90s, it seems like people weren't as into this as you might have thought they would be. Is it because this car is actually, maybe, not as good as it seems? Well, I'm the Roman. This is Race to the Bottom, and today we continue our search for the worst cars in the world by reviewing a car that is famously considered not at all bad. Lexus SC400, the type of retro luxury we haven't seen since they brought back the Trapper Keeper. Alright, so I'm convinced my picker is fundamentally broken when it comes to actually selecting bad cars in my email list, because I normally get flooded with submissions, but for this small window of time before I accepted this car, I wasn't. So when this 30-year-old car popped up in my inbox, I thought, well, after 30 years, something's gotta be wrong with it. It's gotta be a bad car of some kind. Maybe I can tell the story that even cars that are historically good can still be bad sometimes. Maybe I can build a thesis around finally having a bad experience with a Lexus. But then I drove the car and, well, that didn't really happen. And look, why would it? I don't know what kind of brain trauma you need to have to pick this for Race to the Bottom, but I did. So here we are. Now this runs on a 4-liter V8 1UZ FE, making 250 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. It's got an EPA rating of 16 miles per gallon city, 22 highway, and 18 combined. It runs on Toyota's A80 platform, same as the Mk4 Supra. And it's a remarkably balanced car. It's got smooth, even acceleration, but it's not loose either. It sits comfortably between stiffness and elasticity in its handling, without ever feeling like it's teetering towards one extreme or the other. And frankly, I hate that it's as good as it is, because it just feeds back into the reason Race to the Bottom exists in the first place, which is to find something that the guy who likes everything can actually hate, while not actually giving me many negatives to sink my teeth into. But there are negatives, because for as good as a Lexus SC400 might be, it's still a fallible car. And by that I mean, you're still going to deal with mechanical issues over time. Even the most well-built car is still going to run into the occasional hurdle, because I'm still not convinced that perfection exists. Now this is Adam. He came all the way from Canada to let me review his car, which is wild to me, and I thank him for it. Now, he's had some work done to keep this car roadworthy, you know? I'm not even talking about stuff like the radio being replaced or like the tires and the rims, but more issues like the timing belt, the radiator, the water pump, the hydraulic engine fan. I mean, this thing has a sort of menopausal temperament, which is to say, it runs hot. In fact, I haven't driven a car where you can just feel the heat pour off of this since the Vagabond Falcon. I worry for the head gaskets in this thing, even though the 1UZ is generally regarded as functionally immortal. For as good as Toyota engineering can be, it can feel over-engineered at times, in the sense that they put a lot of effort and money into cramming as much of the sport coupe experience as they could into a luxury package. But then Toyota was kind of vindictive in the 90s. Or maybe that's the wrong term, actually, because they weren't exactly spiteful, but they did seem more intent on aiming a harpoon squarely at the hearts of their competitors. From hell's heart I stab at thee, and so forth. This feels like it's coming straight for Mercedes and the CL Class, but falling short because of the lack of a manual transmission. It's actually kind of baffling that they launched this without one, but I can maybe kind of see the justification if Toyota didn't think Americans would go for it without an automatic. Just spitballing. But even ignoring the lack of a manual transmission, the steering could possibly be tighter too if this were intended to be a more dedicated performance car, and I suppose it could stand to be torquier. But then I just don't get the sense that it was ever intended to be a performance car, I'm doing air quotes right now, so much as a luxury car. I'm doing air quotes again, even though I really shouldn't be. Even now, it feels like this is the ideal used car for cultivating a retro luxury personality at a cost approximating an affordable price, or at least more affordable than the equivalent luxury in today's market, where it's black and white and tough all over. I mean, look at it. It's deliciously retro. This is the Nips candy of cars. Tremendous, but overlooked because there are bigger names. I mean, why have Nips when you have Werther's Originals, right? But people don't know just how good some nice, buttery Nips are. You can suck on them all day and they stay hard. It's great. And you know what? Maybe it's for the best that people don't catch on. Maybe Nips get to stay your little secret. Maybe you downplay them because they're your Nips. And if everybody else knows how good they are, everybody's gonna want to suck on them too. Can you even have a retro aesthetic without downplaying it in some way? It feels built in at this point. Lexus SC400. The official car of people who say, "What, this old thing?" But the value of the SC400 is that it offers retro luxury that extends to the actual function of the car rather than just its appearance. It allows you to have something wearing the rounded shape of modern luxury, but with a hazy Vaseline-lensed filter thrown over it all, because nothing quite hits like driving something your parents would never have been able to afford new. Then again, if you had HBO in the 90s and know what Breyer's Viennetta ice cream is, maybe they could. Or maybe this is all projection from a kid who couldn't have HBO in the 90s even when his dad was a cable guy. Rest in peace, Dad. Now, Toyota had their Calty Research and Design Center in California take the reins on building the first Lexus coupe in the last year of the 1980s, and they had to create something different from the ground up rather than just chopping the LS in half. So they used a unique combination of plaster molds that were then rendered as coupes in a computer imaging system to create all the smooth, rounded, aerodynamic curves that would come to define performance cars in the years ahead, or at least mirror them. But its versatility meant it was as feasible for middle-class dads in search of Sunday thrills as it was for self-aggrandizing executives trying to prove their continued virility in the wake of a hairline in full retreat, like Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn. And this does have a modding community, if for no other reason than that it's possible to get these closer to a Supra than it is from stock. For example, swapping a manual transmission or other Supra components in here. Some even tune the engines because it's not a 2JZ, and God forbid. This is without even getting into some of the more ostentatious things people do, like the exhaust mods so that the whispering V8 actually announces itself. But again, even accounting for the fact that this all comes down to personal taste, it feels unnecessary to change much of this beyond modernizing the head unit or something. As far as modifications go, the more you can undo, the better. Because this will hold value. Yes, the urge to turn this into a fake drift car is strong, but a car like this is only original once. And if Adam's example here is anywhere close to mechanically stock, and outside of maintenance it more or less is, from my understanding, then trust me when I tell you, this car is good enough exactly as it is. It doesn't have to be anything more than the SC400. It doesn't have to be the SC300 with the 2JZ. You don't need to badge these back to a Toyota Soarer, even if the badging is cooler. The SC400 doesn't even need to be a Mk4 Supra, yet it feels like the appeal of this car is rooted in its similarity to that JDM icon, even as the icon itself has made itself incapable of replication. That Toyota has been chasing that legacy ever since and haven't recaptured the magic. Never mind that you could say this about the MR2, or the Celica GT4, or whichever car you think is Toyota's piece de resistance. But I don't think I've seen a whole lot of discussion about the SC400 that doesn't loop back around to the Supra, even as it has a different engine and serves different purposes, even as it actually came first. But where the Mk4 Supra was something adventurous and sporty, offering a hint of dangerous exhilaration, the SC400 was a lot more subdued, even as it has aerodynamic curves that allow it to be impressively agile and fun to drive in its own right. The idea that the SC400 is good because of its similarities to the Mk4 Supra feels like a disservice to the steady, consistent performance of this 30-year-old car. And hey, I get it. I do. There's a lot about the SC400 that feels, I don't know, softer than the Mk4 Supra, more fragile. It's like an adrenaline junkie who sold out for a corporate gig. That demon is still in there, even though he's wearing a suit now, but the package feels neat, tidy, fragile. But then, we're all the masters of our own fragility, you know? We create the scenarios in which we're made insecure, and then we create the scenarios by which we're made secure again. We dictate the parameters of what's going to make us feel good, make us feel like a more complete person, irrespective of whether or not those things actually work. You know, growing up without a dad and then saying, if I learn how to hunt, if I learn how to field dress a deer, that will make me a man. That will make me more secure in my masculinity. I miss my dad every day, not just because I didn't get to know him before he passed, truly know him, you know, but I miss him for all the things he didn't get to teach me. And there's a wonderful, wonderful man in my life named Jay, who I feel is kind of a surrogate father in a way. And so if you're watching now, Jay, which you might be, I want to say Happy Father's Day to you. And also Happy Father's Day to you, Dad. I love you, and it'll never stop meaning the world to me when people say we look alike. But here's the thing, and the thing that it took me a while to learn. Skills provide security, right? But they're not security in themselves. And things can provide the dressing of a certain status, of a certain identity, but things are not the identity themselves. I could say having a Mk4 Supra would make me more legit in the automotive community, but that's not necessarily true, because getting to own any car is an opportunity, and an opportunity is not the same thing as a result. Getting a job interview is not the same thing as getting a job. Getting a phone number is not the same thing as getting laid. It's just an opportunity. The story unfolds from what you do with that opportunity. Getting an SC400 is not the same thing as acquiring a Supra, any more than getting a Mk4 Supra is the same as acquiring a higher status. But having an SC400 should be enough on its own, without the qualifier that it's basically a Supra, because it's an opportunity to drive a good car. A car that you could argue in some ways influenced other good cars. So happy Father's Day, Lexus SC400. Happy Father's Day, Dad. Happy Father's Day, Jay. Mossy, my brother-in-law. Rufus, my dad's best friend who helped raise me. Happy Father's Day to my brother, Nate, and to all you fathers out there who are doing the work. Even if you might not really see the shade of what you're doing, it's still worth it to plant the tree, so just know that somebody out there appreciates you. So before I start, I just want to say that if you want Brian's thoughts on this car, it's up right now, over on our second channel, Regular and Roman. I'd like to also plug our Patreon page. It's just a small way that you can support the channel. I believe there are only $1 and $2 tiers right now, so it's not too organized or complex. But if you feel RCR brings any sort of value to your week, please consider supporting us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Alternately, you can like, comment, subscribe, or share this video with someone you think might enjoy it. Any of those things would really help us out. Alright, so once again, the bottom 5 remains untouched. You can see the current leaders in the race to the bottom on your right, and man, I hope that changes soon, because that's been the bottom 5 for a while now. But on the plus side, we do get to add a new entry to the top 5, which means some of these numbers are going to have to change. Now at number 5 is the inoffensively versatile 2014 Honda CR-V. At number 4, the sturdy 2008 Chevrolet Silverado LT. At number 3, the 2018 Volkswagen Golf GTI Autobahn. So now here we are. Previously, number 1 was the 2007 Saab 9.5 Sport Combi. It was more of a gut feeling. I just have a fondness for that car, and I had a lot of fun driving it. But was this better? And ultimately, yes. Yes, it was. So number 2 is the 2007 Saab 9.5 Sport Combi, and at number 1 is the 1994 Lexus SC400. Granted, I'm not really sure how big of an accomplishment this is when avoiding the bottom 5 simply requires you to not be an active mechanical disaster. But here we are. I'd like to thank Adam for coming all the way from Canada to let me review his Lexus. Even if I'd hated this car, it still would have been a privilege. I'd also like to thank each of you for watching, and if you have a car that can actually break my spirit and make me hate something, email me at regularcarstheroman@gmail.com. Oh, one last thing. I have a new car roast video that will be coming out this week. I think it will be Wednesday, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you again for watching, and have a fantastic rest of your week.
I'll trust a 1990s Lexus to stay on my good side. No Soares and no Mk4 Supras. No Soares and no Mk4 Supras. No Soares and no Mk4 Supra.